10 years of marriage. One romantic dinner. A single voicemail that shattered everything. What would you do if the person you trusted most betrayed you in plain sight? This is the story of how I went from broken to unbreakable, and you won't believe what happened next. Before we dive into this emotional roller coaster, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and turn on notifications. Stories like this, they're why we're here, and you won't want to miss what comes next. The perfect anniversary. Until it wasn't. The candlelight flickered between us, casting warm, dancing shadows across the white linen tablecloth. Soft jazz played in the background, the same song that had been playing 10 years ago when Liam proposed to me at this very table. Back then, his eyes had never left mine. Now, they barely glanced up from his phone. I took a slow sip of my wine, the rich red liquid bitter on my tongue. "You've been quiet tonight," I said, forcing a smile. "Long day," he murmured, his thumb scrolling absently. Again, I swallowed the lump in my throat. This was supposed to be special. 10 years. A decade of love, of building a life together. And yet, here we were, sitting in silence while the man I married was miles away, lost in whatever was on that damn screen. Then it happened. A notification lit up his phone. A voicemail. And the name that flashed across the screen made my stomach drop. Jessica K. Office. Jessica didn't work late. Jessica didn't call him after hours. And Jessica sure as hell didn't leave voicemails with little heart emojis next to them, at least, not the last time I checked his phone. My fingers tightened around my wine glass. "Who's Jessica?" I asked, keeping my voice light, like I was just making conversation. Liam's head snapped up. For a second, something flickered in his eyes. Guilt? Annoyance, before his expression smoothed over. "Just a coworker," he said, locking his phone and setting it face down on the table. "Drop it, Claire. You're ruining the mood." Ruining the mood. The words hit me like a slap, as if I was the one who had brought tension to this table. As if I was the one who had spent the entire dinner distracted, distant, like he'd rather be anywhere else. I forced a laugh, but it came out hollow. "Right. Sorry." The waiter appeared then, refilling our waters, offering dessert menus. Liam smiled at him, easy and charming, the way he used to smile at me, the way he hadn't in months. I excused myself to the bathroom, my legs unsteady beneath me. The moment the restroom door closed behind me, I braced my hands against the sink, staring at my reflection in the mirror. My cheeks were flushed, my eyes too bright. Just a coworker. I knew his voicemail password. We'd had the same one for years, our wedding date. A stupid, sentimental choice. My fingers trembled as I dialed, as I entered the numbers, as I pressed the phone to my ear. And then I heard her voice. "Hey, babe. Miss you already. Can't wait for Saturday, just us, no distractions. P.S. Delete this." Winky face. The world tilted. I played it again. And again. Each time, her voice dug deeper, carving out something inside me. "Babe. Just us. Delete this." When I walked back to the table, my hands were steady. My pulse, though, that was another story. It roared in my ears, a drumbeat of fury and hurt. Liam looked up as I sat down, his expression softening into something almost apologetic. "You okay?" he asked, like he cared. Like he hadn't just shattered everything with a single voicemail. I slid his phone across the table, the voicemail still pulled up, Jessica's name glaring back at him in bold letters. His face went pale. "Care to explain?" I said, my voice low and dangerous. Or should I press play for the whole restaurant? For the first time in years, Liam had nothing to say. The silence before the storm. The air between us thickened, heavy with the weight of unspoken truths. Liam's lips parted, then closed again, like a fish gasping for air. His fingers twitched toward the phone, but I snatched it back before he could reach it. "Claire," he finally managed, his voice rough. "It's not what you think." I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "Really? Because it sounds exactly like what I think." Around us, the restaurant hummed with oblivious chatter, clinking silverware, the occasional burst of laughter. No one knew our world was crumbling right here, in this corner booth. His jaw tightened. "Can we just not do this here? Oh, now you're worried about making a scene?" My voice was low but venomous. "Now, after you've been ignoring me all night? After I had to find out like this. A couple at the next table glanced over, curiosity flickering in their eyes. Liam noticed too, and his shoulders stiffened. He leaned in, his tone pleading. Please, let's go home and talk about this. Home. The word felt like a betrayal all on its own. Our home was supposed to be safe. Ours. But if he was deleting messages, if he was calling someone babe, if he had a whole Saturday planned with just us, no distractions, then what the hell was left of our home? I stood abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. No. We're doing this now. His eyes widened. Claire. I didn't give him the chance to stop me. My thumb hovered over the play button, my pulse roaring in my ears. One press. That's all it would take to humiliate him in front of everyone. To force the truth out into the open. But then I hesitated. Because as much as I wanted to hurt him the way he'd hurt me, as much as I wanted to scream and make him feel even an ounce of this pain, I realized something worse. I didn't want to know. Not here. Not like this. My hand trembled. The anger was still there, white-hot and consuming, but beneath it, something else clawed at my chest. Grief. The kind that hollows you out, leaves you raw. I shoved his phone into my purse and turned toward the exit. Claire, wait! Liam scrambled up, tossing a wad of cash onto the table without even counting it. He grabbed my arm as I pushed through the restaurant doors, the cool night air hitting my face like a slap. I whirled on him. Don't touch me! He recoiled as if burned. For a moment, we just stood there under the dim glow of the streetlights, two strangers who used to know each other better than anyone. Tell me the truth, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. How long has this been going on? He ran a hand through his hair, his breath uneven. It's not an affair. I barked out another laugh. Oh, so you're just calling coworkers babe now? Planning secret weekends? That's just normal for you. His silence was answer enough. A car sped past, its headlights cutting through the dark, illuminating the guilt etched into his face. And then, just like that, the dam broke. Once, he blurted. It happened once. Months ago. It didn't mean anything. The words landed like a physical blow. Once. Months ago. Which meant he'd been lying to me every single day since. Smiling at me across the breakfast table. Kissing me goodnight. Letting me believe we were still us. I took a step back, my vision blurring. Get away from me. Claire, please. I said get away. My voice cracked, raw with tears I refused to let fall. He didn't follow me as I turned and walked toward the parking lot. I didn't look back. But as I slid into the driver's seat, my hands shaking too badly to even grip the steering wheel, one terrible thought echoed in my mind. What else don't I know? The drive home. The engine roared to life, but I didn't pull out of the parking space. Not yet. My hands clutched the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from unraveling completely. In the rearview mirror, I could still see Liam standing frozen under the restaurant's awning, his silhouette shrinking as the distance between us grew, both literal and irreversible. Rain began to patter against the windshield, soft at first, then heavier, as if the sky had been waiting for this moment to open up. I flipped the wipers on, their rhythmic squeak filling the silence. The voicemail played again in my head on a loop. Miss you already. Just us. Delete this. I reached for my phone, then stopped. Who would I even call? My sister, who'd never liked Liam to begin with. My best friend, who would immediately demand I throw his clothes on the front lawn. Or maybe no one. Maybe this was a wound I needed to press into alone first, to see how deep it really went. The drive home was a blur of neon signs and stoplights, my body moving on autopilot while my mind raced. 10 years. 10 years of shared laundry and inside jokes, of holding his hand at funerals and cheering at his promotions. Had any of it been real? Or had I been living with a stranger who kissed me with the same mouth that called another woman babe? By the time I pulled into our driveway, the rain was coming down in sheets. I sat there, staring at our darkened house, my house now, I supposed, with its familiar blue shutters and the sagging porch step Liam kept promising to fix. The hydrangeas I'd planted last spring were getting pummeled by the storm, their petals scattering across the walkway like confetti at a funeral. I didn't remember getting out of the car or walking up the steps, but suddenly I was inside, dripping onto the hardwood floors we'd refinished together last summer. The house smelled like us, lemon cleaner, and the vanilla candle I always burned, with that faint undercurrent of Liam's cologne clinging to the couch pillows. Then I saw it. His laptop, left open on the coffee table like a dare. I shouldn't. I knew I shouldn't. But the same compulsion that made me listen to that voicemail had me crossing the room in 3 strides. The screen lit up when I tapped a key. No password, because he'd never expected me to go looking. His email was still open. There it was. A thread with Jessica's name, dated 2 weeks ago. Subject line, Saturday winky face. My finger hovered over the trackpad. This was the point of no return. If I clicked, there'd be no one seeing whatever I found. But wasn't that better than living in the dark? Than letting him spin more lies when he finally slunk home? I clicked. The message loaded slowly, each line a fresh punch to the gut. Hey you. Confirmed the cabin's all set for the 18th. No Wi-Fi, no interruptions, just like you wanted. Winky face. P.S. Still think you should tell her. It's been months. The screen blurred. Months. Months. Not a one-time mistake. A whole secret life. A key turned in the front door. I slammed the laptop shut just as Liam stepped inside. His dress shirt soaked through, his hair plastered to his forehead. He froze when he saw me, his gaze darting from my face to the computer and back again. Claire, he said hoarsely. I didn't speak. Couldn't. The words were ashes in my mouth. He took a step forward, hands raised like he was approaching a wounded animal. Let me explain. The laugh that tore out of me was jagged, broken. Explain what? The cabin? The months? My voice rose with each word. Or is this the part where you blame me? Where you say I was too busy or too tired or... No. The raw anguish in his voice stopped me cold. This is on me. All of it. He sank onto the armchair, his shoulders hunched. I ended it last week. I was going to tell you, but then our anniversary. The clock on the mantel ticked loudly in the silence. Somewhere outside, a branch snapped under the weight of the storm. I studied this man I'd loved for a decade. The way his wedding band caught the light, the faint scar above his eyebrow from the time he tripped carrying in our Christmas tree. How could someone so familiar feel like a ghost? You don't get to decide when I find out, I said quietly. You don't get to rewrite history because you feel guilty now. The truth settled between us, heavy and final. Upstairs, our bedroom waited, our shared closet, our photos on the walls. But down here, in this moment, something had already shattered beyond repair. The storm raged on. The night the house stood still. The rain lashed against the windows like it was trying to get in. Liam sat motionless in the armchair, his fingers laced together, so tightly his knuckles had gone white. I remained standing, arms crossed, putting as much distance between us as the living room allowed. The space between us wasn't just physical, it was a canyon of broken promises, of secrets that had festered in the dark. You ended it last week, I repeated, my voice flat, testing the words, seeing how they felt in my mouth. They tasted like lies. He nodded, his eyes red-rimmed but dry. I swear, Claire, it was over before tonight. A bitter laugh escaped me. Oh, well, that makes it so much better then. You only cheated on me for most of our marriage, not all of it. Claire! Don't. I held up a hand. Just don't. The grandfather clock in the hallway ticked loudly, each second stretching unnaturally long. I studied the man I'd built my life around, the slight tremor in his jaw, the way his left foot tapped nervously against the floor. 10 years ago, I could read his every tick. Now, I wondered if I'd ever truly known him at all. My gaze drifted to the stairs. Our bedroom waited up there, with its king-sized bed and the framed photo from our honeymoon in Santorini. The thought of sleeping next to him tonight, of lying inches away from someone who had pressed his body against another woman, made my skin crawl. Without a word, I turned and walked to the hall closet. Liam's head snapped up. What are you doing? I pulled out the spare blanket and a pillow. You're sleeping down here tonight. His face crumpled. Please don't do this. Don't do this. My voice cracked. You made your choices, Liam. Now you get to live with them. I started up the stairs, each step heavier than the last. Halfway up, I heard him whisper something that stopped me cold. I still love you. My hand gripped the banister until my fingers ached. 1,000 responses fought in my throat. Then why did you betray me? Love doesn't destroy people. You don't get to say that now. But all I said was, "Good night, Liam." The bedroom smelled like him, his aftershave, the laundry detergent he preferred. I stripped the bed violently, yanking off the sheets we'd picked out together last year. The new ones I pulled from the linen closet still had their store tags on. Crisp, clean, untouched by our history. As I remade the bed, my phone buzzed. A text from my sister, "Rachel, you okay? You left dinner so suddenly." I stared at the screen. How could I possibly explain this in a text? "Hey, Rach, turns out my marriage is a lie. Pass the wine." Instead, I typed, "Not feeling great. Talk tomorrow." Her response was immediate. "Call me whenever. Love you." Tears pricked at my eyes for the first time that night. That simple "love you" undid me in ways Liam's grand declaration hadn't. Because Rachel's love came without conditions, without betrayals, without hidden voicemails. I changed into pajamas and climbed into bed, leaving Liam's side conspicuously empty. The storm had quieted to a steady drizzle, the occasional rumble of distant thunder the only reminder of its earlier fury. Downstairs, a floorboard creaked. Liam was pacing. I could picture him perfectly, running his hands through his hair, maybe pouring himself a drink from the bar cart we'd received as a wedding gift. The thought made me nauseous. I reached for my phone again, this time opening my photos. Scrolling back through months of memories, birthdays, vacations, lazy Sunday mornings. Had he been thinking of her when he smiled for these pictures? Had he texted her sweet nothings while I was in the next room? My thumb hovered over a photo from our ski trip in February. Liam's arms were wrapped around me, both of us flushed from the cold, grinning like fools. That had been 4 months ago. According to his emails, their affair was already in full swing. I deleted the picture. Then another, and another. Tears streamed down my face now, silent and unrelenting. I wasn't erasing our history. I was uncovering the truth beneath the surface. The lies masquerading as smiles. The betrayal hidden in plain sight. Somewhere around 2 a.m., exhaustion overtook me. As I drifted into an uneasy sleep, one thought followed me into the darkness. Tomorrow, I would have to decide what came next. But tonight I would let the house stand still. Let the world stop turning. Just for a few hours. Just until morning. The morning after. Dawn came too soon, pale light creeping through the gaps in the curtains like an uninvited guest. I blinked awake, disoriented, my body stiff from a night spent clinging to the edge of the bed. For one blissful second, I forgot. Then it all came rushing back. The voicemail, the emails, Liam sleeping downstairs. The house was eerily silent. No coffee machine gurgling, no shower running, none of Liam's usual morning noises. Just the faint ticking of the hallway clock counting down the seconds of our ruined marriage. I dragged myself out of bed, my reflection in the bathroom mirror giving me pause. Dark circles shadowed my eyes, my hair a tangled mess. I looked like I'd aged 10 years overnight. The shower turned scalding hot as I stepped in, as if I could burn away the memory of his betrayal. When I came downstairs wrapped in a robe, I found Liam at the kitchen table, 2 mugs of coffee steaming between us. He looked worse than I felt, his shirt wrinkled from sleeping in the armchair, his stubble darker than usual. His bloodshot eyes met mine, tentative. "I made you some," he said, nudging one mug toward me. I stared at it. Our anniversary mug, the one that said Best Adventure with a tiny compass design. A gift from 3 years ago. The irony tasted bitter in my mouth. "I'm not drinking that," I said, turning to make my own. His hand twitched like he wanted to reach for me, but thought better of it. "Claire, we need to talk about—" "What?" "The weather," I snapped, pouring fresh coffee into a plain white mug. "Or maybe we should discuss how you were going to tell me about your affair. Was there going to be a PowerPoint presentation? A timeline of your lies?" The words hung between us, sharp as broken glass. Liam flinched, his fingers tightening around his own mug. "I was going to end things with her either way," he said quietly. "Our anniversary, it made me realize what I was risking." A harsh laugh escaped me. "Our anniversary didn't make you realize anything. Getting caught did." The truth of those words settled over the kitchen like a fog. Liam opened his mouth, then closed it again, his shoulders slumping in defeat. I took my coffee to the living room, putting physical distance between us. The couch still held the indent from where he'd slept. His phone sat charging on the end table, no doubt wiped clean of incriminating evidence by now. Where is she? The question surprised even me as it left my lips. Liam appeared in the doorway, confusion knitting his brow. What? Jessica. Where does she live? Work. My voice was eerily calm. I think I deserve to know who helped destroy my marriage. His face paled. It's not. She's not important. That's not what your email said. I took a slow sip of coffee, watching him over the rim of my mug. Was it worth it? Those few months of sneaking around? Was she really worth losing everything? The silence stretched too long before he whispered, No. One small word, but it shattered something inside me. Because if it wasn't worth it, then why? Why risk us? Why break what we'd spent a decade building? My phone buzzed on the table. A calendar notification. Couples therapy, 11 a.m. Another cruel joke. We'd started going 6 months ago, right around the time his affair began. All those sessions where I'd poured my heart out about feeling disconnected, and he'd sat there knowing exactly why. I stood abruptly, coffee forgotten. I'm going for a drive. Wait, Liam moved to block the doorway. Where are you going? When will you be back? The desperation in his voice should have moved me. Instead, it just made me tired. I don't know, I said honestly, grabbing my keys. But you lost the right to ask me that question the first time you kissed her. The morning air was crisp as I stepped outside, the neighborhood waking up around me. Kids waiting for school buses, neighbors retrieving newspapers from their driveways. Normal people living normal lives. As I pulled out of the driveway, I caught one last glimpse of Liam in the rearview mirror, still standing in the doorway, watching me leave. And for the first time since hearing that voicemail, I breathed. The road to nowhere. The engine's steady hum was the only sound in the car as I drove aimlessly through streets that had once felt like home. My hands gripped the steering wheel at 10 and 2, the way my father had taught me when I was 16, but my mind was anywhere but on the road. The morning sun glared through the windshield, making my eyes water. Or maybe those were the tears I'd been refusing to let fall since I'd walked out the door. I turned up the radio to drown out my thoughts, but every song seemed to mock me. Love ballads reminded me of the mirage my marriage had been. Angry breakup anthems made my stomach clench with their too raw honesty. I finally switched it off, letting the silence press against my eardrums. My phone buzzed again in the cup holder. Liam's name flashed across the screen for what felt like the 100th time this morning. I didn't answer. Instead, I rolled down the window and let the rushing air drown out the ringing. The crisp spring morning smelled of freshly cut grass and blooming lilacs, scents that should have been comforting, but now just felt like reminders of a normalcy I could never reclaim. The road stretched before me, a gray ribbon unfurling toward the horizon. I accelerated slightly, watching the speedometer needle climb. There was something dangerously freeing about driving with no destination, no plan, nothing but the open road and my shattered heart. An exit sign loomed ahead, Crystal Lake, 2 miles. My breath caught. We'd gone there on our third date. Liam and I had spread a ratty old blanket on the rocky shore and shared a bottle of cheap wine. He'd kissed me for the first time there, his lips tasting like Cabernet and promises. My hands turned the wheel of their own accord. The lake parking lot was nearly empty, just a few scattered cars belonging to early morning joggers or fishermen. I parked far from the entrance, near the trailhead we'd always used. The door creaked as I pushed it open, the sound unnaturally loud in the quiet morning. My feet carried me down the familiar path, automatically. The trees were fuller than they'd been that long ago October, their new leaves casting dappled shadows on the ground. I could almost see our ghosts walking ahead of me, younger, happier versions of ourselves who had no idea what the future held. The lake spread out before me, its surface smooth as glass. Early morning mist curled above the water like smoke. I knelt at the water's edge, the damp earth soaking through the knees of my jeans. A handful of small stones sat nearby, worn smooth by the water's constant caress. I picked one up, turning it over in my fingers. Liam had taught me to skip stones here. Had stood behind me, his arms around mine, showing me the perfect wrist flick. "It's all in the angle," he'd whispered against my ear, his breath warm on my neck. The memory burned. I drew my arm back and hurled the stone with all my strength. It hit the water with a loud plunk and sank immediately. Not quite the right technique. The voice startled me, so badly I nearly lost my balance. I turned to see an elderly woman standing a few yards away, a golden retriever panting at her side. Her silver hair gleamed in the morning light, pulled back in a neat bun. It took me a moment to place her, Mrs. Henderson, Liam's old neighbor from his apartment days. She smiled, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "Claire, isn't it? I thought that was you." I stood quickly, brushing dirt from my knees. "Mrs. Henderson, I didn't know you still came here." "Oh, every morning," she said, patting her dog's head. "Buster and I have our routine." Her sharp eyes studied my face, taking in the redness around my eyes, the absence of my wedding ring. "You're here awfully early yourself." The concern in her voice undid me. Before I could stop them, words came tumbling out. "Liam's been having an affair." There, said aloud to someone other than myself. The truth hung between us, ugly and undeniable. Mrs. Henderson didn't gasp or offer empty platitudes. She simply nodded, as if she'd expected this all along. "Come," she said, gesturing to a nearby bench. "Sit with me a while." We sat in silence for several minutes, watching the lake. Buster laid his head in my lap, his warm brown eyes full of uncomplicated love. "My Harold cheated too," Mrs. Henderson said finally. "Back in '92. His secretary." She smoothed her skirt. "I found out much like you did. A message I wasn't meant to hear." I swallowed hard. "Did you stay?" "For 12 more years." She gazed out across the water. "Long enough to realize some broken things can't be fixed, no matter how much glue you use." A fish broke the lake's surface, sending ripples outward. I watched them spread until they disappeared. "The hardest part," she continued softly, "wasn't forgiving him. It was looking in the mirror every morning and recognizing the woman who chose to stay." The truth of her words settled over me like a heavy blanket. Could I live with that version of myself? We sat together as the morning warmed around us. When I finally rose to leave, Mrs. Henderson took both my hands in hers. Her skin was paper-thin but warm. "Whatever you decide," she said, her voice steady, "make sure it's a choice future you can live with. Not for him, not for the past, but for the life you want to wake up to tomorrow." The walk back to my car felt different, lighter somehow, despite everything. As I turned the key in the ignition, my phone buzzed once more, Liam again. This time I answered. The conversation. The phone felt heavy in my hand, Liam's name flashing on the screen like a warning. I took a deep breath before pressing it to my ear. "Claire." His voice was raw, strained. "Where are you?" "I've been at the lake," I said, cutting him off. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. A pause. Then, quietly, "Our lake." I closed my eyes. That simple phrase, "our lake," cut deeper than any accusation could have. Because nothing was truly ours anymore. Not the lake, not our home, certainly not our future. "I'm coming back now," I said. "We need to talk." The drive home passed in a blur. My hand stayed steady on the wheel even as my thoughts churned. Mrs. Henderson's words echoed in my mind. "Make sure it's a choice future you can live with." The problem was, I couldn't picture my future at all anymore. It had always included Liam. Our house looked different when I pulled into the driveway. The cheerful yellow paint we'd picked together last summer suddenly seemed garish. The porch swing where we'd spent so many evenings now just looked like 2 empty seats. Liam was waiting at the door, his face drawn. He'd changed clothes, a clean t-shirt and jeans, but still looked wrecked. His eyes searched mine as I approached, looking for answers I didn't have yet. "Claire." "Inside," I said, brushing past him. The living room smelled like lemon cleaner he'd been cleaning. The couch cushions were straightened, the coffee table wiped down. It would have been touching if it wasn't so transparent, as if tidying up could erase months of betrayal. I sat in the armchair, putting the coffee table between us. Liam hovered near the couch, unsure whether to sit or stand. "How long?" I asked, the question that had been burning inside me since last night. He swallowed hard. 4 months. 4 months, I repeated. The words tasted like ash. "And how many times?" His hands clenched at his sides. "A dozen, maybe." I didn't keep count." A hysterical laugh bubbled up in my throat. "Well, that makes it better. You only betrayed me approximately a dozen times." "Claire, please." "No." I held up a hand. You don't get to ask for patience now. You don't get to rush me through this. I took a shaky breath. Was it just sex? He looked sick. At first. Then it became more. The admission hit like a physical blow. I'd expected, maybe even hoped for, some tawdry story about drunken mistakes or midlife crises. But this, an emotional affair, that cut deeper than any one-night stand could have. Did you love her? My voice barely above a whisper. Liam sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. I thought I did. But now, God, Claire, it was never about her. It was about me being selfish and stupid and... Stop. The word came out sharper than I intended. Don't you dare make this about your guilt now. I need the truth, Liam. All of it. He looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. What do you want to know? Everything. And so he told me. About how it started, a happy hour that turned into too many drinks. About the lies he'd told to cover his tracks, the fake business trips, the sudden overtime. About the cabin they'd booked for next weekend, our anniversary weekend. With each confession, something inside me hardened. The tears I'd expected didn't come. Instead, a strange clarity settled over me, the kind that comes when you finally see something for what it truly is. When he finished, the silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. What now? Liam finally asked, his voice breaking. I looked around our living room, at the photos on the walls, the books on the shelves, the life we'd built together. Then I met his gaze. I think you should leave. The words hung in the air between us. Liam's face crumpled. For how long? I don't know. And I didn't. That was the most terrifying part. But I can't. I can't look at you right now. I can't sleep in that bed. I can't pretend everything's okay when it's not. He nodded slowly, his jaw clenched. Where should I go? That's not my problem anymore. The harshness of my words surprised even me. But for the first time in months, maybe years, I was putting myself first. Liam stood, his movements slow, like an old man. I'll pack a bag, he said quietly. As he trudged up the stairs, I sat perfectly still, listening to the sounds of my marriage ending. The creak of the closet door, the zipper of a suitcase, the quiet sniffles from the man I'd promised forever to. When he came back down, duffel bag in hand, he paused by the door. I'm so sorry, Claire. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. The door clicked shut behind him. Only then, alone in the sudden silence of my house, did I finally let myself cry. The silence after the storm. The sound of the door closing behind Liam echoed through the house like a gunshot. I stood frozen in the living room, listening as his car engine faded into the distance until there was nothing left but the oppressive silence of my home. My hands shook, but no tears came. Only a hollow numbness, as if someone had scooped out my insides and left behind an empty shell. I wandered into the kitchen, my bare feet sticking slightly to the hardwood floor. Liam's coffee mug from this morning still sat in the sink, the dregs now cold and bitter. I threw it away with unnecessary force, the ceramic shattering satisfyingly against the metal trash can. Good riddance to that damn best adventure anniversary mug. What a joke. My phone buzzed on the counter. Liam again. This time, I answered but said nothing. Claire. His voice sounded raw, like he'd been crying. I don't know what to do. Neither do I. My reply came out softer than I intended. Can I come back? Just to talk properly. I closed my eyes. The rational part of me knew he didn't deserve another chance, that I shouldn't give an inch. But my heart, my traitorous heart, still clung to that fragile hope that maybe, somehow this could be fixed. Not tonight, I said. I need time. He didn't argue. Just a quiet okay, before the line went dead. The apartment felt cavernous without him. Every corner, every piece of furniture told stories that now felt like lies. Even our Sunday movie-watching couch seemed different, just a piece of furniture, not the place where we'd laugh together. I collapsed onto the bed, but sleep wouldn't come. His pillow still smelled like him, that woodsy cologne I used to love. With a surge of anger, I threw it across the room and buried my face in mine instead. Morning arrived with a gray sky, as if the universe knew today wasn't a day for sunshine. I dragged myself out of bed feeling like I'd fought a war overnight. The bathroom mirror showed puffy eyes and pale skin. I barely recognized the woman staring back. My phone chimed. A text from Rachel. Hey, you vanished. Everything okay? I took a deep breath. I didn't want to talk about it. Not yet. But if I didn't reply, she'd be pounding on my door within hours. Rough day. Need some space. But I'm fine. Lie. I wasn't fine. I was miles from fine. Breakfast tasted like ash. The toast might as well have been cardboard, the milk sour even though it was fresh. I dumped it all and decided to do something I hadn't done in ages. I went for a run. The park near our house was nearly empty, just a few moms with strollers and elderly walkers. I shoved in my earbuds and took off, trying to drown my thoughts in the rhythm of my feet against pavement and the burn in my lungs. It didn't work. Every step reminded me of Liam. We used to run together on weekends. He'd always complain I was too fast, and I'd laugh and tell him to keep up. Now I ran alone, with no one to tease about their pace. I stopped suddenly, bending over with hands on knees, gasping. It wasn't the running that winded me, it was the grief. Grief for what we'd had, for what I'd thought we'd had. When I returned home, a surprise waited on the porch, a brown paper bag with a note on top. Claire, I know you don't want to see me right now, but I can't stop thinking about you. Please know I regret everything. L. Inside was a pint of chocolate ice cream, my favorite, and that novel I'd been wanting to read for months. The kind of thoughtful gestures he'd always done when I was upset. A month ago, this would have melted my heart. Now all I could think was, did he do this for her too? I carried the bag inside and threw it straight in the trash. Not to be cruel, but because I knew if I gave in now, I'd only be opening the door to more pain. My phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. Hello. Claire. A woman's voice, soft but hesitant. It's Jessica. The world stopped. My fingers clenched the phone so hard they ached. How did you get this number? My voice came out icy. Liam gave it to me a while back. I needed to call you. I took a steadying breath. What do you want? A pause. Then she said the words I least expected. I didn't know he was married. And just like that, everything changed. The other woman. The air left my lungs in one sharp exhale. I gripped the edge of the kitchen counter to steady myself, my knuckles turning white. You didn't know. My voice sounded foreign to my own ears, flat, emotionless. No. Jessica's breath hitched on the other end of the line. Not until yesterday. He told me you found out and I needed to call you myself. A bitter laugh escaped me. How noble of you. I'm not calling to apologize, she said quickly. I just thought you should know, he told me you were separated, that the marriage had been over for months. The words landed like a physical blow. I slid down the cabinet until I was sitting on the cold tile floor, the phone pressed so hard against my ear it hurt. Is that so? He had pictures of you too, removed from his social media. Said you were just waiting to make the divorce official for financial reasons. Her voice dropped. I believed him. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Of course he'd scrubbed our photos. I'd noticed that months ago when he claimed it was for professional reasons. All those late nights at work, those sudden business trips. He built an entire parallel life where I didn't exist. Why are you telling me this? Silence stretched between us before she answered. Because if I were you, I'd want to know the full truth. The microwave clock ticked loudly in the quiet kitchen. 11:37 a.m. Just 24 hours ago, I'd been preparing for our anniversary dinner, completely unaware my marriage was already dead. What else? I asked quietly. Jessica hesitated. There's a cabin near Pine Ridge. He booked it for this weekend, your anniversary weekend. A fresh wave of nausea rolled through me. He'd been planning to spend our anniversary with her. The same dates, different woman. I see. I'm ending things with him, she added quickly. I thought you should know that too. I stared at the trash can where Liam's peace offering lay buried under coffee grounds and eggshells. Thank you, I said finally, for calling. We hung up without goodbyes. The house felt different after that call, not just empty, but charged with a strange new energy. I moved through rooms like a ghost, seeing everything with fresh eyes. The framed wedding photo on the mantel looked like a relic from someone else's life. The matching his and hers coffee mugs we'd gotten on our honeymoon seemed like props in a play that had ended. My phone buzzed, Liam again. I silenced it without looking. Instead, I went to our shared office and booted up the computer. Liam had always handled our finances, but I knew his password, the same one he used for everything. His email inbox, loaded with painful familiarity. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. A confirmation for Pine Ridge Cabins. This weekend. Paid for with our joint account. The receipts told their own story. Dinners at expensive restaurants, hotel bookings, even jewelry purchases, all from the past 4 months. All from our shared money. I printed everything. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I called a lawyer. As the phone rang, I stared out the window at our backyard. The rose bushes Liam had planted for me last spring were just beginning to bloom. Crimson petals unfurled in the afternoon sun, beautiful and oblivious to the storm inside the house. Family Law Associates, a crisp voice answered. How may I help you? I took a deep breath. My name is Claire Evans. I need to file for divorce. The first cut. The lawyer's office smelled like leather and expensive coffee. I sat in an oversized chair that swallowed my frame, clutching the folder of printed evidence against my chest like armor. Across the polished mahogany desk, Attorney Reynolds scanned through my documents with the detached efficiency of someone who'd seen this story play out 1,000 times before. I'm sorry you're going through this, Mrs. Evans, she said without looking up. Her silver bob didn't move as she flipped another page. But you've done the right thing by gathering documentation. The words Mrs. Evans scraped against my raw nerves. Soon that wouldn't be my name anymore. Soon I'd be Claire Henderson again, back to the girl I was before Liam, before the wedding, before the betrayal. Reynolds tapped a manicured nail against a hotel receipt. These joint account charges are particularly helpful. We can demonstrate dissipation of marital assets. I swallowed hard. What does that mean for me? It means, she said, finally meeting my eyes with a gaze sharp enough to cut glass, you'll likely get the house, alimony, and a significant portion of your shared savings. Especially with proof of infidelity. The numbers she quoted next should have comforted me. They didn't. No amount of money could undo the fact that the man I'd built my life with had stolen 10 years from me under false pretenses. I signed the papers in a daze. The pen felt heavy in my hand, each signature carving another piece of my marriage away. When I handed them back, Reynolds gave me a rare, sympathetic smile. The first cut is the deepest, she said quietly. But it does get easier. The late afternoon sun blinded me as I stepped outside. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, unsure where to go. Home didn't feel like home anymore. The thought of returning to those empty rooms made my chest tighten. My phone buzzed, Rachel this time. You okay? Haven't heard from you in days. Before I could overthink it, I called her. Jesus, Claire, I've been. I filed for divorce today, I blurted out. Silence. Then a car door slammed through the phone. Where are you right now? Outside my lawyer's office on. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Don't move. She arrived in 12. Rachel's Prius screeched to a stop at the curb. My sister, my perpetually put together, never a hair out of place sister, looked like she'd thrown on the first clothes she found. Her usually sleek ponytail was half falling out, and she wore mismatched flip-flops. She didn't say a word as I climbed in, just reached across the console and squeezed my hand hard enough to bruise. We drove in silence to a dive bar we'd frequented in college. The place hadn't changed. Same sticky floors, same faint smell of stale beer and fried food. Rachel ordered us 2 whiskeys before we even sat down. Tell me everything, she demanded as the glasses hit the table. So I did. The voicemail, the emails, Jessica's call, the cabin reservation, the lawyer. All of it poured out like poison I needed to expel. Rachel listened without interrupting, her face growing darker with each revelation. When I finished, she downed her whiskey in one go and signaled for another round. That fucking bastard, she hissed. I always knew there was something off about him. I swirled my untouched drink. No, you didn't. Okay, fine, she admitted. But I should have. You deserve so much better, Claire. The bartender slid 2 fresh glasses toward us. Rachel pushed mine closer. Drink up. Then we're going back to your place and burning everything that reminds you of him. A laugh bubbled up from somewhere deep inside me, the first real laugh in days. I don't think my landlord would appreciate us burning furniture. Fine, Rachel conceded. We'll settle for deleting all his photos from your phone and blocking his number. I finally took a sip of whiskey. It burned going down, but the warmth spreading through my chest felt good, like the first flicker of life after a long winter. You know what's crazy? I stared into my glass. Part of me still loves him. Rachel didn't flinch. Of course you do. You don't just turn that off. But love isn't enough, Claire. Not when trust is gone. The truth of that settled between us. Outside, the sun began to set, painting the bar in golden light. For the first time since finding that voicemail, I didn't feel quite so alone. Rachel raised her glass. To new beginnings. I clinked mine against hers. To new beginnings. The whiskey still burned. But this time, I welcomed the fire. The unraveling. The whiskey left a slow burn in my chest as Rachel and I walked back to her car. The street lights flickered on one by one, casting long shadows across the pavement. I clutched the folder of legal documents tighter under my arm, the weight of what I just set in motion pressing down on me with each step. You're staying with me tonight, Rachel declared, unlocking the car doors. It wasn't a question. I opened my mouth to argue, then stopped. The thought of walking into that empty house, our house, not just my house, made my stomach twist. Okay, I whispered. The drive to Rachel's apartment was quiet. She kept one hand on the wheel, the other resting on my knee like an anchor. I stared out the window at the passing city lights, watching them blur together through unshed tears. Her place smelled like lavender and the vanilla candle she always kept burning. I kicked off my shoes by the door, the familiar routine comforting in its normalcy. Rachel disappeared into the kitchen and emerged with 2 glasses of water and a box of tissues. Okay, she said, plopping down next to me on the couch. First order of business, we need a plan. I blinked. A plan? For your new life. She grabbed a notebook from the coffee table and clicked a pen dramatically. Phase 1, survival. That means eating, sleeping, and not checking his social media. A weak laugh escaped me. Since when are you the organized one? Since my baby sister got her heart broken by a walking garbage fire. She scribbled something down. Phase 2, reinvention. New haircut. Maybe some redecorating. Rachel. Phase 3, world domination. She grinned at me, and despite everything, I found myself smiling back. We stayed up late talking, the way we used to when we were teenagers. Rachel told me about her latest dating disasters, carefully steering the conversation away from anything Liam-related. At some point, she produced a pint of ice cream from her freezer and 2 spoons. You had this ready, didn't you? I accused. She shrugged. I may have stopped at the store while you were in the bathroom at the bar. The ice cream was mint chocolate chip, our childhood favorite. As I took the first bite, something inside me cracked open. The tears came suddenly, a flood I couldn't stop. Rachel pulled me into a hug, letting me soak her shirt with all the grief and anger I'd been holding in. I don't know who I am without him. I choked out between sobs. Rachel squeezed me tighter. You're Claire Henderson. You're the girl who aced every test without studying, who ran a marathon on a dare, who makes the world's best pancakes even though you burn everything else. She pulled back to look at me. You were amazing before, Liam, and you'll be amazing after. I wiped my face with the back of my hand. When did you get so wise? Birth order privilege. She handed me a tissue. Now eat your ice cream before it melts. Morning came too soon. Sunlight streamed through Rachel's curtains, painting stripes across the guest bed where I'd finally fallen asleep. My phone showed 17 missed calls from Liam and a string of increasingly desperate texts. I deleted them all without reading. Rachel was already in the kitchen when I emerged, humming along to some pop song as she scrambled eggs. The smell made my stomach growl. I couldn't remember the last real meal I'd eaten. Sleep okay? She asked, sliding a plate toward me. Better than expected. I poked at the eggs. Rachel, thank you. For everything. She waved a spatula dismissively. Don't mention it, though I will expect naming rights to your firstborn as payment. I snorted. Deal. The eggs were perfect, just runny enough in the middle the way I liked them. As I ate, Rachel casually slid a key across the table. What's this? Spare key to my place. She shrugged like it was nothing. In case you ever need an escape. The lump in my throat made it hard to swallow. I pocketed the key without trusting myself to speak. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Claire Evans. A professional female voice. Yes. This is Marissa from Pine Ridge Cabins. I'm calling to confirm your reservation for this weekend has been canceled per your request. Your refund will be processed within. I didn't cancel anything, I interrupted. A pause. Oh, our records show the reservation was canceled this morning by Mr. Evans. I set my fork down carefully. I see. Thank you for letting me know. Rachel raised an eyebrow as I hung up. What was that? Liam canceled the cabin, I said slowly. The one he booked with Jessica. Rachel's face darkened. Too little, too late. I picked up my phone again, scrolling through my contacts until I found the number I'd saved after her unexpected call. Jessica answered on the second ring. Claire. He canceled your weekend getaway, I said without preamble. A beat of silence. Then a quiet, I know. He called me an hour ago. Rachel was making frantic, what the hell are you doing? Gestures, but I ignored her. And I pressed. And nothing. Jessica's voice was firm. It's over between us. I meant what I said. I didn't know about you, but now that I do. She trailed off. I'm not that person. I exhaled slowly. Good to know. We hung up, and I turned to find Rachel gaping at me. Did you just call the other woman to confirm your cheating husband canceled their affair, Catian? I took a sip of orange juice. I needed to know where things stood. Rachel shook her head in disbelief. Remind me never to get on your bad side. A strange sense of calm settled over me as I finished breakfast. The hurt was still there, a dull ache in my chest, but something else too, something that felt suspiciously like strength. Hey, Rach. Yeah. I met her eyes across the table. I think I'm ready to go home. Coming home. The familiar scent of our house, my house, hit me as soon as I opened the door. Lemon cleaner, the faint hint of Liam's cologne lingering in the air, and something deeper, something that just smelled like us. Except there was no us anymore. I walked through each room like a ghost, touching the memories we'd built together. The coffee table we'd picked out after months of debating. The bookshelf Liam built that still leaned slightly to the left. The photos on the walls, smiling faces that didn't know what was coming. In the bedroom, I stopped. His side of the closet stood half empty, hangers askew where he'd grabbed clothes in a hurry. My wedding ring sat on the dresser where I'd left it, catching the afternoon light. I picked it up, feeling its familiar weight one last time before placing it in the jewelry box. Not with anger, not with sadness, just finality. The doorbell rang. Through the frosted glass, I saw Rachel's silhouette holding 2 pizza boxes and a bottle of wine. Behind her, a few more familiar shapes, my college best friend, my yoga buddy, my neighbor who always borrowed sugar. I took a deep breath and opened the door to my new beginning. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more emotional journeys. Have you ever faced a life-changing moment like Claire? Share your story in the comments below. We're all in this together. Turn on notifications so you never miss an update. And remember, no matter what storms life brings, new beginnings are always possible. See you in the next story.